Suddenly, the noise of the shadow soldiers caught Jinwoo's attention. "What are you doing?" They are now standing on one side and gathering together to shout about something slash. The two dragons opened their mouths to form two pillars of fire shooting into the sky. The light emitted from the pillars of fire made the black sky there glow. Tusk looked at them with a confident smile. It held the greedy gem in its hand and then created magical power to shoot a sky-high column of fire. The flow of power was so terrible that it made the shadow soldiers standing to one side excitedly scream. Jinwoo stood to the side of Tham thinking, "Isn't using the pearl of greed cheating?" Mr. Teen came and asked what they were doing. Bellion said, "We are building a small house for you so that you can rest comfortably during your stay here. Bara made you do that again. Dear monarch, why don't you send your soldiers back to the darkness?" Jinwoo calmly replied, "Because I think they will feel suffocated there, because they have always been imprisoned in another dimension long before coming here." Bellion, don't you feel sad that you can no longer see the former monarch of shadows Ashbourne? It replied, "I stood by his side in the fight to prevent the rulers from betraying absolute beings. I also consider myself to be his first soldier when he gained the power of death. Even though those 10 days were a very long time and almost an eternity, but not once did I doubt his decisions." Two people stood on a hill watching the sparkling stars in space. "Can I hear what's going on between you and Ashbourne?" "This will be a very long story. The story began when I was still a fruit of the world tree. At that time, all the soldiers of the heavenly emperor were born as fruits of the tree." Fruit? Have you ever made one? Bellion begins explanation. The world tree is a giant tree that can cover the entire sky with its branches. Although we don't know when they will arrive here, we must let the people know about the existence of the remaining 8 monarchs. They must have the right to know about the war that is about to officially take place, although I do not promise to ensure the safety of all people. I also cannot promise to maintain the world's previous form, because the king of berserk dragons in Ashbourne's memory possesses an extremely terrible power. The king of berserk dragons and his army of destruction have reduced everything before them to ashes, and now they have made the earth their target for destruction. So now, not only me but everyone needs to be mentally prepared. Mrs. Sum now asks, "Jinwoo, is there something wrong with me? Why do you suddenly ask like that?" Her expression turned serious, because before facing dangerous things, your father always prepares food for mother like that. "You really look a lot like your dad." He quickly reassured his mother that nothing was wrong. It seemed like there was a guest coming so I could open the door. Jin-ah replied in surprise. "I didn't hear the bell." Jinwoo opened the door and asked the person outside what was going on. Chairman Wu smiled and looked at Jinwoo. "Hunter-sung, I'm sorry for coming to find you without prior appointment. Can you spare some time for me?" At first, I thought it was because I was special that I could wake up from my eternal sleep. But after thinking about it carefully, I knew that miracles could not happen so easily. Even if I search all over the world, the only people who wake up from the eternal sleep are Hunter-sung's mother and me. That's why I can't help but suspect Hunter-sung. He sighed and looked at Jinwoo. "You helped me, right?" Jinwoo replied, "Because I think you are a trustworthy person. If the chairman is someone who is willing to do anything just to satisfy his desires, then I will never take risks for you." After hearing these words, he was a bit surprised, so he asked again, "What do you mean it's because I don't want to take advantage of Jinho that you helped me?" "Yes, I don't know what to do to repay you for saving my life. Please give me a chance to repay the favor I have received. Even just half is fine. Please allow me to do so. I wonder if Hunter-sung has any wishes?" He replied with a gloomy face, "I don't have any wishes. But if something happens to me, can you take care of my mother and sister?" "Is that all, Hunter-sung?" "Yes, that's more than enough. I understand. You can trust me. I promise you." Chairman Wu Jinchul is broadcasting to Jinwoo a view of the maximum gate in the sky of Shanghai, China right now. Not only in Shanghai, but all over the world. A total of 8 gates have appeared. He turned to look at Jinwoo. "Hunter-sung, could it be that those gates are also?" Jinwoo quickly interrupted. "No, aren't they your troops?" Jinwoo nodded in agreement. "They were the enemy. President, do you believe me?" Wu Jinchul's expression was a bit worried, "But I believe you. If so, I hope you will believe what you are about to see." Before he could decide, he put his finger on the president's forehead. After witnessing all the events in history, Wu Jinchul was extremely scared and shouted, "No way, how could those things happen? I have always believed that the gods gave special powers to a few people as a gift to save this world. So the hunters have always believed that they have to fight demonic beasts to protect humans, but if what Hunter Sung showed me is true, then is it all just because of their arrogance? It's all just my illusion. It turns out that from the beginning to the end, it was just the process of them nurturing a few people who could survive the Great War. What? This is not a war between humans and the monarchs, but a war between the monarchs and the rulers. The battle between two forces possessing unparalleled power. In the end, Wu Jinchul still couldn't accept it. Hunter Song, are you really planning to fight them alone? So no, what should I do to help you? At a party for hunters, President Wu asked if the staff had contacted them all. Yes, this morning we have contacted all 152 countries. What did Hunter Song say to you at the association yesterday? This is the first time I've seen the president's face look so pale. Seeing Wu Jinchul not answering, he was a bit confused. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked. The army of giant dragons has started to appear from the other side of the darkness, and behind those dragons is a super giant dragon. Even if all the hunters in the world joined forces to attack, it would still not be possible to get a single scale from it. Its power is so overwhelming that it seems it can burn the entire earth with just one breath. It is already that strong. How will Hunter Sung fight them? Chairman Call Sung Jinwoo to inform. I have gathered representatives of the countries, as you said. Where are you now? Not fast, not slow, Jin Woo appeared from behind him. If everyone knew everything, the world would be chaotic, and some countries would not be able to control that chaos. I know here today. If you really make that decision, we will reveal the whole truth to the world. The conference has finally taken place, and everyone has gathered. From the president, the minister, the commanders of the guilds to the presidents of the hunter associations. Everyone seemed to be sitting on fire. If only Hunter Sung Jinwoo stood in front of everyone at this moment and said the gate this time is not something to worry about, I will solve it right away, it would be great. If only we didn't have to hear this news. Jinwoo stood on the speech and said with a serious tone, this world will have to go through a difficult time. No one can stay out of this war. They will appear before you and destroy everything. An Indian heard that and shouted, are you forcing us to believe that? You mean even national-level hunters can't stop them? This is the worst disaster in human history when hundreds of beasts stronger than Kamish will continuously appear. Even national-level hunters can't stop them, so please prove it to us. If not, how can we believe what you say? There's no evidence that you can say hundreds of them like Kamish will appear. Jinwoo raised his hand to create a series of purple portals, surprising everyone. What is this? Isn't that the gate? Could Hunter Sung create so many gates at the same time? The enemy can also create gates like mine everywhere. The enemy's army is extremely powerful, so we can only hold them back for a very short time. A white-haired old man shouted excitedly. You're not on their side, are you? Weren't the soldiers that appeared from the first gate summoned to kill us? Having said this, he felt that he was exaggerating a bit. President of the United States raised his hand and said, now I know what will appear from that gate. So what should we do to stop them? Jinwoo's eyes were now extremely serious, and he replied, I hope you stay away from the gates and run away as far as possible. After the meeting, information about the conference spread rapidly. Run away to the farthest place after receiving a warning that humanity will not be able to compete with the power of hundreds of magical beasts that are about to appear. Many people feel scared and try to find ways to escape. Out of the gate, on a certain island, a very large castle suddenly appeared. Bearer retreats and hits his head. It began to cry out in a pitiful voice, the king. But the massive castle in front, Jinwoo asked, is this a house where I can rest comfortably? I'm still wondering if this is a 5-star hotel. He banged his head and replied, since it's the king's stopping place, it should be at least like that. Looking at the flag hanging on the top of the castle, Jinwoo asked it, what were you thinking when you put that thing up? Hearing this, Bellion quickly came over to apologize. So it was your idea, Bellion? What happens to an army if it loses its commander? If I die, can I entrust my legion to a commander-in-chief like you? Bellion replied, I will live and die with you. If you close your eyes and give up, I will also return to dust. Jinwoo now thought, the advantage of the Dark Army is their absolute loyalty, not caring about life or death and only acting for their master. Advantages and disadvantages are like two sides of a coin. The enemy will definitely aim for that. Igris stood to the side and said, "Dear monarch, we cannot win if we fight them directly. What is the force difference between the two sides? I estimate it's about 100 times." Unexpectedly, the enemy had more than 10 million soldiers. The scene changes to a press conference where a Canadian S-rank hunter named J. Mills tells the press, "Stop saying stupid things like that. If I had known Hunter Song Jinwoo's phone number, I would have killed myself. I called him," the reporter replied. "After all, Hunter Song Jinwoo is one of the best hunters in the world. How can we ignore his warning?" He replied in a confident tone. No matter how talented he is, not everything he says is accurate. Hunter Song often says nonsense to scare people, so I won't let you monopolize all the gates. It turns out because I am a person who is not afraid of anyone. President Wu plays this video for Jinwoo to watch. Hunters in Canada have reunited with J. Mills. In addition, India, the country known for its powerful hunter force, as well as a number of other countries, are preparing for this survival race. He turned to ask Jinwoo what he intended to do. He replied, "I will go to China in the near future," silently thinking, "I alone cannot confront 8 armies at a time. Therefore, we must eliminate all factors that can threaten the clans in South Korea first before considering other monarchs. Because the more battles that break out, the higher your side's chances of winning will be." At this time at the airport, Jinwoo met Liu Zhigang. "I heard that a government official would come to pick me up, but I didn't expect that the person coming to pick me up would be Hunter Liu Zhigang." He happily replied, "They only know how to hold up stupid signs, so I decided to take charge of picking up Hunter Song." Liu Zhigang pointed to the sky. "It's over there, you can see it clearly at the airport, right?" "Yes, it is the maximum gate that appeared this time, and in addition we China also have about 100,000 hunters ready to fight." Hearing this, Jinwoo's face was extremely surprised. Liu Zhigang continued, "Not only are there a large number, but their abilities are also very outstanding." Was about to begin, a dark magical energy appeared behind him. Jinwoo's entire shadow army appeared, in such large numbers that it surprised him that Jinwoo's demeanor was so different. Unbelievably, he turned to ask Jinwoo, "Did Hunter Song summon all of them?" Bearer stood aside angrily and said, "The king on your left is my position. Why does he dare to stand next to you?" Jinwoo pushed him back. "This guy is an ally." Liu Zhigang asked Jinwoo if summoning can still communicate with them. "The gate has now begun to open. It's begun, it's so strange. I don't see any signs at all. What do you say? Do they appear elsewhere?" Bellion replied, "The soldiers are distributed all over that place, that the other places are the same. Are they all empty gates? Wait, I was wrong. I thought the monarchs would open gates everywhere in the world to separate our forces. In Canada, the magic gate has begun to crack. Everyone is looking forward to Hunter Song Jinwoo." Everyone just called Song Jinwoo's name without even bothering to mention us. All the villagers and hunters were now standing on the streets shouting, "Canada is determined not to give up. Hunters will protect the lives of this country. We will defeat every kind of demonic beast that invades this country. It's starting." Everyone looked into the endless black hole. "What is that? I heard that the monsters would rush like pouring rain," was Hunter Song Jinwoo bragging. A tall man stepped out from inside the gate. People below were confused and asked, "Isn't there just one person?" J. Mills thought to himself that he was human. "That's just a human." The man with long red hair stood in front of him and said, "Are you the king of this place?" Hearing the man speak human language, he asked again, "Aren't you a demon?" A young man wearing glasses next to him said there was nothing surprising. Demonic beasts can also invent literate armor and have a social organization system like humans. They also have intelligence like humans. It's just that they don't want to communicate with us humans all this time. So it's not surprising if they can communicate with us in human language. Hearing this, J. Mills smiled triumphantly. It turns out that magical beasts can communicate with humans. He thought to himself, "That's right. Now I understand why Hunter Jinwoo was able to recruit the soldiers that appeared at the first gate to become his soldiers. It is by this way of communication that they will ask if the first person they meet is the king. Is this their way of submission?" After thinking about it, he asked, "What if I were the king? The king of Berserk Dragons doesn't care about him at all. It seems he's not here anymore. In China, at this time, Jin Woo asked an employee if he didn't have a way to verify the situation in Canada. Please wait a moment. Jin Woo suddenly realized that he could call Adam at the Hunter Management Bureau. The other end of the line picked up. Jin Woo asked him about the current situation of the maximum gate on the Canadian side. But only hearing the screams of the surrounding people, Jin Woo asked where he was. Adam said that he and the support staff are currently at Canada's maximum gate. Why are you there? Adam replied, we can't just stand outside and watch the gate in Canada like it's none of our business. Not only me but many other employees are also stuck here. Hearing this, Jin Woo blamed himself for not predicting the scale of the enemy. He asked him, that gate hasn't changed, right? Yes, it seems that this is also an empty gate like other places. The scene is very quiet. As soon as he breathed a sigh of relief, Adam said again, wait, it seems like something appeared from inside the gate. Is it a person? There's a person coming out of the gate. Hearing that, Jin Woo immediately shouted for Adam to run quickly. Get in your car or whatever you have and get out of there quickly. But just hearing Adam's frightened voice, Canada's top hunters in front were burned to dust by him in the blink of an eye. Jin Woo shouted again, it's okay, Adam, run away, you have to run away from there at all costs. In the sky, dragons and other magical beasts are also coming. All the magical beasts are blending together. Jin Woo thought about what had happened to this point. If he could control the shadow soldiers to Adam, maybe he could save him. A hunter suddenly appeared and pulled Adam away. Now I will start teleporting. But suddenly the king of berserk dragons appeared again. Where are you going, dark soldier? The king of berserk dragons opened his mouth. A fire appeared in his mouth and immediately shot out. Only Adam's screams could be heard. Hearing that the other end of the line was silent, Jin Woo gritted his teeth. Damn, I should have planned this in advance. If their army of darkness fights harder and harder, the German side will also know how to minimize fighting and concentrate their forces in one place. The monarchs opened all 8 gates as a pre-planned plan to lure me and their trap when I gathered at the gate farthest from their position. What a sinister move! If we mobilize all our forces there now, we will only have to face a full-scale war. The long-term plan seems to have been in vain. Liu Zhigang calls Jin Woo. The hunters in Canada have been. He was also extremely helpless right now. The king of berserk dragons here says, the beating hearts of living creatures, their screams finally the happy sound of destroying everything. Everything seemed to be blending into a fiercely burning song. Yes, this side is also ready. Please smash everything for me because that is our only mission to survive. He said and laughed out loud with joy. In the room of the president of the American Hunter Association, the president was sitting at the table with countless bottles of wine. Hunters, staff, even reporters, all of them must have died. Hundreds of dragons followed them. There were also giants and beasts. Those insects kept flocking here like a great flood. This is truly a disaster that humans cannot bear. It's all dead. Everything is really over. It's only a matter of time before they land here. Only now do I understand why the fig hunter repeatedly asked everyone to run away from the gate as far as possible. This world has really ended. A black magic power suddenly appeared. It was Jin Woo, the association leader, who was also extremely surprised. Jin Woo said he came here to need one thing. Runestone. Please give me the runestone that Kamish left behind. Hearing this, he sat up. You already know that the runestone left by Kamish belongs to our hunter management department. Speaking of this, he began to sigh again. He has another occupational disease. What the hell is the management department at this hour? In this situation, even America is divided, let alone the Hunter Management Bureau, but I'm still saying why the hell runestone belongs to the Bureau. Then he apologized because he was still not awake. He would give the runestone but wanted to know what Jin Woo's purpose was for taking it. Jin Woo very calmly replied that it was a weapon for us to counterattack. The scene changes back to the basement. Didn't you say that the ruler brought the demonic beasts here? So what do the runestones in the bodies of these magical beasts mean? Looking at the magic stone inside, Jin Woo explained, it was a gift they gave to humans so we can hunt monsters more effectively. What the rulers want is for magic to take root in this land through a fierce battle between humans and monsters. Human sacrifice is just an unplanned thing, not their ultimate goal. If a demonic beast dies, the crystal implanted in their body will automatically seal their power. So that runestone is the help the rulers give to humans so we can hunt. Get a demon. He still has doubts, but can we really stop those monsters with just this? You have to try it to know, and I still have one favor to ask you. The scene changed to an extremely massive castle. Mrs. Sellner sat on the sofa and said, I didn't expect that there was still someone who wanted to come find me at this time. You're not the person I used to know. If before you always wanted to capture the darkness deep inside your soul, now you are the essence of that darkness. Jinwoo replied, I am the person you once knew. The only difference is that the darkness that you saw then became one with me. I heard that you can see the future, so can you see my future? She didn't say anything but just held Jinwoo's hand. Then, for unknown reasons, Mrs. Sellner burst into tears. Are you really going to bear everything alone? No way. Jinwoo still showed a warm smile. Why does one person have to bear such a cruel responsibility? Are you planning to sacrifice yourself to protect everything? Luckily, I knew I could go that far. Lady shouted, What luck! No one will remember you. This will be your lone battle alone. Jinwoo turned around and left. I'm sorry for breaking in here and asking you to do such unreasonable things. She quickly stopped it, but it was too late. Jinwoo returned to Korea and picked up his familiar phone to call Chae in. He gave a warm smile and said, It's me, Mr. Jinwoo. Is it really Mr. Jinwoo? Yes, I'm sorry I'm so busy. It's okay, being busy is also a part of life. Is that true? I'm so busy that I can't meet you. Let's meet next time. Yes, of course. Then Cha-in called Jinwoo with an extremely warm tone. Mr. Jinwoo, can you promise me something? Please promise you will come back to see me. Yes, we will definitely meet again. Both ended the call in joy. It's time to hit the road. President Choi's voice startled Cha-in. All the hunters were now gathered to prepare for a life and death battle. The king of Berserk Dragons said with an arrogant tone, I have arrived. Tens of millions of your kind have died. How long are you going to hide like that? Jinwoo looked into the distance and said, I will see you soon. Standing on the roof of the building at this time, the king of Berserk Dragons thought to himself, he has been silent since then. What is he planning anyway? On this side, 10 million soldiers of the Dragon's King have already arrived. Enough gathering. 100,000 soldiers fighting against 10 million soldiers is literally fighting eggs and rocks. For you guys, there will be no choice but to jump into the abyss and hide. His thoughts were interrupted when a missile crashed straight into his face, followed by dozens of missiles attacking continuously like fireworks. Special Forces soldiers shouted, Hit the target! Several planes flew in the sky surrounding the position of the king of Berserk Dragons. I couldn't see clearly with the naked eye anymore. It seemed like he had blocked the attack just now. Inside the fire, a pillar of fire shot straight into the sky. In front of the soldier was the eyes of a real dragon staring at the soldier. Here, what is this? The series of fighter planes in front of the dragon were just like toys. The scene of the ruined city was truly like the end of the world. So bland. It opened its huge mouth, creating an extremely terrifying stream of magic power. The magic power being emitted outside and everything turned white. The scene changes to his castle. Jinwoo is sitting on the throne. The cold air and loneliness surround him. Jinwoo's face was full of feelings and he didn't know who to express them to. He looked up at the words, My king, appearing right before his eyes made Jinwoo smile. It seemed like it was also a warmth that crept into this lonely life of Jinwoo. Oh, thank you. It came up from underground crying and said, Oh king, the bellion on one side also stopped it. Monarch is very dangerous. Next is Igris, it thinks the same. Seeing his subordinates like that, Jinwoo quickly reassured, I know you are worried about my safety, but I cannot see danger and do nothing forever like this. Ashbourne, the former monarch of shadows, also said that it was my advantage. Suppose if he were in the same situation as me, what do you think he would do? If that happens, surely he will never give up what he has to do, right? Hearing this, Bellion really had nothing to refute anymore and looked up at Jinwoo. Ashbourne's silhouette appeared before his eyes. Sure enough, he really resembled him. 3 of Jinwoo's closest subordinates simultaneously knelt before him. We will stand by your side until our last breath. Having finished speaking, Jinwoo started to stand up. Good, the 4 of them were preparing to leave, ready for a life and death battle. Jinwoo walked while holding his phone in his hand. Seeing that, Bellion immediately asked, Shouldn't you contact your relatives at this time? He replied silently, no need. If you hear their voices, your words will gradually become choked. Each stream of memories came rushing back. Jinwoo crushed his phone as if showing determination and said, then I won't be able to move forward anymore. His eyes gradually became determined. Let's go. Back on the battlefield now, the king of Berserk Dragons is frantically destroying fighter planes. A lucky Special Forces soldier successfully jumped from the plane, but as soon as he landed, he was attacked by magical beasts. A soldier hiding behind a big rock saw this scene and broke into a sweat. Quail eggs playing lottery. Suddenly a few drops of water like urine fell on his body. As soon as he turned to look to see what was happening, the scene before his eyes made him terrified. A giant centipede with sharp teeth was about to pounce on him. Seeing that, he immediately stepped back and took the gun of the lying soldier and shot it a few dozen times. The bullets continued to shoot into the centipede's head until it ran out of bullets, but it seemed like it was not affected at all by those stormy shots. At this moment, he just quickly blurted out one sentence. If you watch the temple without liking and subscribing to the channel, you will be punished by heaven. In an urgent situation, the beast was cut so that its soul left its body. Looking up, he could only scream in surprise. My God! Some Jinwoo! Hunter some Jinwoo! He turned to look at him and said, go! His eyes widened in surprise. Dozens of beasts behind him were preparing to attack Jinwoo. He quickly shouted, Mr. Hunter! Jinwoo was as calm as a statue, holding two daggers and pointing them straight at the monsters' faces. He used the ruler's hand skill to attract monsters to increase damage. Skillful sword exchanges in an instant took care of the greeds. The image of the monsters screaming in extremely terrible pain, Jinwoo was like an angel of death at this moment. He dragged the two daggers to wherever the corpses and blood of the monsters lay. I will start from here first. Arising, hundreds of thousands of dark soldiers with the power to destroy the entire earth appeared. On this side, the king of Berserk Dragons said that the humans are gathering troops in the east. Monarch of Shadows has appeared. Next to him, the Monarch of Transfiguration continued. We must quickly mobilize all our troops to attack them. I couldn't sense the shadow soldiers in their shadows. As expected, they were dispersing their forces to take action. Do they think that they can secretly go into battle and absorb this side's troops? They were buying time and avoiding an all-out battle. Monarch of Shadows, what are you aiming for? On national television, it was reported that the communication line with the hunters who were dealing with the beasts had been interrupted, and the government was urgently mobilizing the military to create time for the people to evacuate. Chairman Wu Jinchul looked at the media and had no choice but to pray. This tragedy is happening continuously on the other side of the earth. Starting from Canada, it has now spread to America. The country that possesses the strongest fighting power is also having to collapse tragically in the hands of those monsters. The only thing humanity can do at the present is to pray for a miracle to happen. But what kind of miracle can stop them? A miracle. Please don't leave us. Hundreds of dark soldiers had merged into one, like a giant tsunami rushing in and swallowing everything. The shadows are gradually dyeing the battlefield black. A series of monsters were gradually destroyed. Wherever Jinwoo's army went, it became a black and purple color. The more the army fought, the more aggressive it became. A giant wielding a mace attacked him. Jinwoo suddenly appeared in front of him, attacking from foot to head. The giant was defeated. The remaining one, before he could recover, was bitten on the neck by a dragon's king. As soon as the giant fell, hundreds of thousands of shadow soldiers rushed towards him. Thousands of dragons in the sky appeared. Jinwoo looked at them and thought, has the army of destruction begun to move? But I couldn't sense any trace of the dragon's king. Perhaps at this time they still have no intention of participating in the battle. There is no need to despair. We still have a lot of time. If they hesitate to appear, I just need to create a reason to force them to appear. Rise. The super giant dragons are gradually being defeated. The servant of the king of Berserk Dragons had just appeared and attacked Jinwoo's giant shadow soldiers. He said, are you planning to use a puppet made of magic power to stop the great king of Berserk Dragons? Then I will replace the king of Berserk Dragons and directly eliminate those who dare to disrespect him. Jinwoo riding Kaisel on his back appeared behind that guy. Wow, that's a lot of mounts. As soon as it turned its head back, Jinwoo jumped down from above, with just a single group of guys who had just crowed like a chicken and had their heads cut off. The king of berserk dragons here has also sensed that the monarch of shadows is getting stronger. He ordered an attack. The monarch of transfiguration, stay here and prepare to deal with the army. He immediately accepted the order. The king of berserk dragons summoned dozens of gates and said he would stop Jinwoo. In the city center, special forces are still actively fighting against drugs. Their captain shouted, "Don't hesitate, shoot, aim at that limb. At least it can block their movement. We will hold out until the hunters arrive to reinforce us." Suddenly a bald monster appeared behind them. In an urgent situation, Thomas appeared to save them. He punched that guy straight in the face. The attack was so powerful that it sent him flying several meters away. "These are all monsters I've met in the dungeon." Everyone saw that and shouted that it was a scavenger group. Thomas was still very confident and said, "They only get a lot, nothing else." However, an emperor appeared. "Were you human at that time?" Dirty henchmen of the rulers who joined the battle before the king of beasts died. "I am the king of the elements. The monarch of steel will personally take care of you. Surely you know that someone like you can cut off my head in the blink of an eye, right? Even so, how are you still going to get in the way?" Thomas replied, "I don't know, because I'm tired of difficult things." A dark shadow gradually appeared next to Thomas. "It's been a long time since I've seen the monarch of steel." He stood in front of his army and began to crow. "Why is the dark army here? Do they hide their whereabouts and hide in the shadow of humanity? That's all, but he's really worried. If it doesn't work, you have to report it to the Dragon's King." His eyes gradually became serious. "What's happened? Can't contact at all." The emperor looked up at the top of the building and saw it. Tusk is using his magic to cut off his communication. See Tusk, so he gritted his teeth and thought. Not to mention the soldiers, this cannot be the strategy outlined by the monarch of shadows. This is not the fighting style of the Dark Legion. The people who always came to announce his inevitable death in front of his enemies were really angry right now. This is the way of humans. You are not qualified to be king. Beru appeared at this moment. It radiated an extremely terrifying magic power. The lightning that surrounded it was the anger of defaming his king. "Take back what you said just now. Insulting my leader is Li's majesty." Hearing this, he became even more angry that your small army dares to stand in front of an emperor like me. "I'm so scared." His true form appeared, taking the form of Jin Woo's greed. The two were about to fight when the seed switched back to Jin Woo. He and the king of berserk dragons had finally met. The king of berserk dragons stood above thinking, "The monarch of steel hasn't contacted me. Has he betrayed me?" 2. This is his trick. He kept baring his teeth. Fire began to appear. He launched an attack and said, "I must kill you." His power was so terrible that even Jin Woo was surprised. Where the attack passed through, everything was burned. He raised his gaze to the sky. Jin Woo appeared above and summoned his army of darkness to surround him. Seeing that, the king of berserk dragons also strengthened and began to counterattack. Over here, Liu Zhigang is still actively exterminating monsters. You giants can only excel in a few naval battles. The magic power on the entire continent is being shaken. Hundreds of thousands of hunters are constantly fighting monsters everywhere in the world. Especially the wave of magic power, so strong that it can penetrate the body, is emanating from this place. Turning to where Jin Woo and the king of berserk dragons were fighting, Liu Zhigang said, "Finally that side has started fighting." Returning to the battle, the king of berserk dragons is constantly destroying Jin Woo's army of darkness. He still looked calm and asked, "Are those useless soldiers all you have? It seems that you have sent your main army to deal with the monarch of steel, and now you intend to fight me with thousands of these weak soldiers, right?" Not paying attention to what he said, Jin Woo created a gate intending to leave. Seeing that, he immediately chased after him, absolutely not letting him escape. He rushed towards the gate but was stopped by the Dark Army. He said, "So, you guys have conquered all of the Monarch of Steel's army?" I glanced over and saw that the Monarch of Steel was gradually being torn apart by Beru and Bellion. He felt discouraged and left, sending the main force to confront the Monarch of Steel, then regrouping to fight us alone. Not a bad strategy. Is Monarch of Shadows really funny? Here the Monarch of Transfiguration, standing and observing the battle situation. The king of berserk dragons continued, "Do you think I'm the only one chasing you? You are wrong. These are the gates prepared by the monarch of transfiguration Yogamut. Through these gates, I can call forth as many legions as I want. Your plans are already bankrupt. Wrong judgment is your grave. You have failed. Seeing that he had fallen into the trap, Jinwoo smiled confidently and canceled the summoning. It's hard for him to understand why you took them back. Have you given up? Anyway, I can understand why you gave up. Thousands of the Dragon's King surrounded him. The sky right now is full of dragons and dragons. Jinwoo did not respond to his words. He gradually closed his eyes. His face appeared bright lines. He transformed in the surprise of the king of berserk dragons. Perhaps you are. Is the most terrible skill of the dragon race sealed in Kamish's runestone. It helps strengthen magic power and then deliver a powerful blow to cover our or enemy troops. It is the scream of the soul that makes the opponent fall into despair. The dragon's fearsome roar. A terrible stream of magical power emitted from Jinwoo's body, causing everything to stop. Dragon army with the monarch of transfiguration, also extremely scared. The king of berserk dragons thought to himself, with a scream like this, not to mention the dragons, even Yogamut won't be able to act. Jinwoo grabbed him and said, "Follow me." The king of berserk dragons was also sweating. Had he been preparing for this moment from the beginning? The two of them had now teleported to Jinwoo's castle. He looked around and asked, "Where is this?" Jinwoo interrupted, "Opposite where you exist." The king of berserk dragons replied, "Although you will benefit in every way with a large number of soldiers, in return your magic power will be eroded in proportion to the number of soldiers summoned. That's why you brought me here alone. Truly a wonderful plan. Is that your castle over there?" Jinwoo replied a bit shyly, "Yes, the scale is indeed not bad for the holy land of a monarch of shadows." Jinwoo gradually summoned a dagger in his hand. "I think its size is too suitable to commemorate your death." He is also gradually changing. "I wonder if I can hold out until my soldiers get here." Before the eyes of melon-eating masses like us right now is the king of berserk dragons and the Dark Army. At the headquarters of the American Hunter Association, Mrs. Sellner looked outside and exclaimed, "The fire of war that has enveloped the entire United States is rising and spreading everywhere." The president put his hand on his forehead with a helpless expression. "So what Hunter Sam Jinwoo said is true. What should we do?" Mrs. Sellner replied, "He is not the only hunter in this world. All hunters around the world, regardless of whether they are E-rank or S-rank hunters, have been gathering to plunge into the fight to protect humanity. Even though E-level hunters are only a little stronger than normal people, they also know that they cannot contribute much strength to our side's total strength. Unlike soldiers, they only have weapons and defensive gear protected by magic. There's not much difference between C-rank or D-rank hunters, and C-rank hunters can kill no more than 10 animals. S-level hunters are no exception. Even though they can destroy thousands of monsters, they will eventually become one of the thousands of stars in the sky and disappear. However, when each of them becomes a star and flies across the sky like a shooting star, even though they are very faint, they can still show us the future we often call, there is hope waiting ahead." In Seoul, Korea, at this time, Woo Jin-chul's assistant said, "I heard that Hunter Sam Jinwoo successfully brought him to an uninhabited island near Japan." Chairman Woo thought to himself, "I've heard Hunter Sam Jinwoo say before, when the giant's gate cracked, a huge stream of magic power flooded into an uninhabited island tens of kilometers wide. If we put all our strength into fighting there, we will minimize the damage. Could it be that he has been hiding there until now because of this?" The assistant asked again, "Should we arrange hunters nearby in case something goes wrong?" Woo Jin-chul replied, "Aren't all S-rank hunters and high-rank hunters in America? Do you think we can send someone there? But E-level hunters are also suitable." He smiled and said, "Next, do you know that former Hunter Sam Jinwoo was also an E-level hunter?" He answered decisively, "Yes, I know, E-level hunters can also become heroes." Rewinding to Jinwoo's battle with the king of berserk dragons, he rides Kaizel to attack him. While he was about to open his foul mouth to attack, Bellion quickly used his sword to tie his mouth shut like a puppy's muzzle. Feeling humiliated, he glanced at Bellion looking extremely fierce. Seeing that, the two giants also joined in the fun and jumped on him. "I also don't know what they climbed up like that for. It seems to hold steady." Tuskir was about to attack, but was suddenly trampled by him. Greed and Beru took the opportunity to attack. The two rushed as fast as they could, hitting him in the face, causing him pain. Igris on top of his head used the sword covered in lightning to strike him in the head again, causing his mind to become confused. His eyes widened in utter stupidity. Jinwoo stood above watching, and it seemed to work. He lay on the ground still in the form of a dragon and said, "This is fun." Then he rolled his eyes with an extremely angry expression and said, "Although I really like battles where I can overwhelm the enemy with my own force, it turns out that being pressured by the enemy like this is also fun. It tastes so good." Jinwoo felt terrible magic power begin to flow in his body, and he also sweated. He stood up, pouted at the sky, and said, "I will show you what it is the dragon's fearsome roar real." The dragon's fearsome roar skill has just activated. All the dark soldiers swept by the magic cannot survive. There are a few giants who, due to their high fighting power, can still reluctantly resist that power. Jinwoo's clothes were also tattered at this time. It turned out that this was the dragon's fearsome roar of the king of berserk dragons, ruler of dragons. Like this, I can't control the soldiers. Feeling that he was wasting too much mana in vain, Jinwoo cancelled the summoning of the shadow soldiers. The king of berserk dragons was attacking Jinwoo. The extremely terrible power flowed past like a storm. Everything it passed through, from rocks to dark soldiers, was burned. Jinwoo urgently shouted, "Kaisel, come back here quickly." Then the fire flew into the night sky, leaving behind only streaks of light and ashes. Where it passed was so hot that it turned into lava. Seeing this, he cried loudly, "I am the embodiment of destruction. Because of a war filled with blood and death, I am willing to sacrifice my own life. I was born and exist for the sake of wars, and I am the monarch of destruction, the king of berserk dragons Antars." Before Jinwoo's eyes was now a dragon with an extremely crazy appearance. Jinwoo thought to himself that there was a huge amount of magic power that had seeped into the ground when the king of the giants died. Yet the ground still cannot support it. If you get hit fire breath, even if his soldiers are immortal, they will definitely be destroyed. The king of berserk dragons then returned to his human form and smiled and said, "Monarch of shadows, you don't need to worry too much. When you grab one of my arms, I can cut that arm off. Yours right away, but honestly I have to thank you for being able to push me to this point. As the same emperor, I really want to talk to you." He started explaining the theory like a book. Perhaps you learned this when you received the memories of the former monarch of shadows. But our real enemy is not on this land but on the other side of the sky, which is the army of the rulers. Their mission is to destroy the emperors born in the darkness, from the first to the last. Of course, Monarch of Shadows is no exception. I used to think I would destroy them after eliminating you, but after fighting you I changed my mind. The power you possess is different from Ashbourne. I can see our resounding victory from that power. If you want to save your family and country, I will help you satisfy your wish. If you want me to leave this land, then yes, my soldiers and I will quietly help the army. Go. You should become the owner of this land. Obviously, I don't mean the owner of that castle on the hill, but you should become the owner of this planet, because you deserve to have that status." He began to hold out his hand and said, "In return, you only need to shake hands with me if we join forces to defeat the army of the rulers. Your family, your country, and everything in this land will have peace and freedom. Monarch of Shadows, how do you feel? Do you want to cooperate with me?" After hearing his nonsense, Jinwoo smiled and said, "That's ridiculous. Do you think I can trust a person whose eyes are filled with murderous intent, wanting to find every way to kill me?" When he saw that his plan had been revealed, he burst out laughing. "Jinwoo here also has murderous intent. It's true that it can't be hidden from you, but that is the last compassion I have for you. Well, Monarch of Shadows, just prepare." He frantically strengthened his body. One arm turned into a giant dragon and grabbed Jinwoo. Before being crushed, he quickly dodged. The ground he stepped on was extremely crumbly. He turned to face Jinwoo, then shot out a stream of fire breath. As soon as he launched the move, he quickly appeared next to his ear, catching his opening. Jinwoo jumped down and rotated like a wheel to slash at him. His dragon scales could absorb it. "Close, my love." The king of berserk dragons said, "You can't hurt me with that. Kaisel, fly out of here." The dragon's fearsome roar, his skill activated so strongly that it made Kaisel freeze for 5 seconds. Feeling unable to avoid it, it grabbed Jinwoo with its tail and then launched him away. Just as Jinwoo flew away, the king of Berserk Dragon's attack also arrived. He was extremely angry at this point, standing there and screaming, "That's not enough to kill me!" Before he could finish crowing, Jinwoo quickly flew up and grabbed his neck, where Jinwoo used the ruler's hand skill to cling tightly to them. His body was like lava, so Jinwoo's feet were also smoking. He noticed the enemy on his body and immediately hit him on the neck with his hand. Jinwoo took the opportunity to lose his temper and summoned Dad Khan, the dragon's king, squeeze him tight. Two of them locked him, the other one bit his neck, the other one bit so enthusiastically that it made him scream. After biting, fire shot out again. Jinwoo stood above, watching and thinking. It seems like it was used fire breath of the dragon's king. It's also not possible Burnt got him. His defense and attack capabilities are far superior to the previous opponents I have encountered, so the attack method I am using is completely unassailable. The king of Berserk Dragons. I need to be stronger. I need the strength to be able to punch through a mountain covered in iron armor with my bare hands. Wait, iron armor. Jinwoo began to cast magic power around his body as if he had planned something. The dragon's king, his body was destroyed by the king of Berserk Dragons. My body will block this trivial attack of yours. Before he could finish speaking, he looked up at the sky with a terrified expression. Ha! Is he drawing the power of darkness? What are you planning again? Iron armor. I will use the power of darkness to form a layer of armor. An armor so darker and stronger that any living creature can see and feel it. Jinwoo's darkness had now become spiritualized. The king of Berserk Dragons trembled, unable to believe what was happening before his eyes. How is that possible? Monarch of Shadows was originally one of the fragments of light, so his original body was definitely his original form. There will be no way for him to transform. So how could he transform into that giant form? Could it be that he is summoning the power of death all over the earth? How is that possible? A while ago, he was still just a mortal. How could he summon the power of death to such an extent? Here, is this me? Looking at his new form, Jinwoo couldn't believe his eyes anymore. This is the true power that Ashbourne gave to the Monarch of Shadows. Inside this giant body, there is a terrible, unpredictable power surging like a flood. He also realized at this time. It turns out you are someone who has faced life and death ranks for a long time, so that is the reason why an ordinary person like him can fully absorb the power of the former Monarch of Shadows Ashbourne passed down. From before he received his power until now, this human has always been fighting with himself to survive. I must destroy him. This guy is an extremely dangerous threat. When he saw that, he shot out a stream fire breath extremely strong towards Jinwoo. Jinwoo raised his hand with a light blow that was able to rip through his attack. The two strong men looked at each other with deadly eyes, each wanting to quickly defeat the other. They rushed at each other as if they hadn't seen each other in a long time, with terrible power tearing apart the entire space. The battle between the two strongmen was reaching its climax. The body of the king of Berserk Dragons still seemed bigger than Jinwoo's. He used his claws to catch Jinwoo, but he quickly blocked the attack. Next, Jinwoo turned around on top of his head, giving him a powerful blow. The attack was so terrible that the air seemed to be distorted. The face of the king of Berserk Dragons is no exception. Not accepting defeat, he screamed, then turned around and bit Jinwoo's stomach. He sucked him into his mouth, then used great force to throw him far away. The ground where he fell could not withstand the pressure, so it collapsed. Without giving his opponent time to rest, the king of Berserk Dragons used another attack. Fire breath attacked, but Jinwoo promptly dodged the explosion. Even though his speed was so fast, Jinwoo still had to leave an arm behind from that attack. Not afraid of danger, Jinwoo still rushed to attack the enemy. One blow fire breath was used again, but this time Jinwoo attacked it directly. Although the Shadow Slash had a stopping effect, the king of Berserk Dragons could still use his tail to attack Jinwoo. His tail is several dozen meters long, and one blow can send the mighty Dark Warrior flying. He began to fly into the sky to create powerful fireball attacks. Even though there were a lot of them, it didn't seem to hit Jinwoo at all. From within the explosion, a dark sword slashed across his wings, causing him to scream in pain. Then a few more swords like that appeared. Around Jinwoo at this moment were swords surrounding him. With a turn, those swords flew towards the king of Berserk Dragons. Seeing that, he also began to counterattack. Two powerful attacks colliding enough to make heaven and earth shatter. The scene here right now is no different from the battle of the gods. In the cloud of dust and smoke, a purple light appeared. The person coming out of the smoke was Jinwoo. His body that was hit seemed to have reached its limit. The shadow armor gradually disappeared. Jinwoo slowly fell. He knelt down on the ground, revealing an extremely tired face. Seeing that, the king of Berserk Dragons immediately felt proud. It seems that to maintain this terrible power, your physical strength has been significantly consumed, right? This is my last chance for you, please ally with me. Hearing these words, Jinwoo quickly stood up, his eyes extremely determined, and said, I never thought I would cooperate with monsters. Hearing that, he immediately summoned the divine sword in his hand and said, You are really stupid. The eyes of the two strongest emperors were staring at each other. Both disappeared and then suddenly appeared to attack the opponent. The king of Berserk Dragons fought and shouted, The monarch of transfiguration and the army of destruction is destroying your everything. And when you have to confront me and this sword, you won't be able to protect anything. Even if you are the king of death, as a human being, you will still feel fear of death. You will turn to dust in my fire of destruction, and everything you are trying to protect will also become a thing of the past. As he spoke, he burst out laughing. If you were the one who awakened Ashbourne's power, then you must have felt so many screams right now. The cries of customers are resounding in this land, on this earth, right? As soon as he finished speaking, he lifted the sword that pierced Jinwoo's chest. This is war, the sound of my army freely tearing apart and torturing your fellow humans. Just listen slowly to their sounds of despair. Despair will spread everywhere in this land, and the king of Berserk Dragons, I will silence them immediately. Please regret your foolish choice. Jinwoo looked at him with a hateful expression. The one who should regret is you, right? A dagger suddenly appeared behind the king of Berserk Dragons without him noticing, and in a moment it attacked the king of Berserk Dragons' body. Unexpectedly, the dagger could not pierce his defense. He smiled evilly and said, You think a sword made from dragon's teeth can pierce the body of the king of this Berserk Dragons? Ridiculous! This is the battle between me, the fire born from darkness, and you, the darkness born from light. Jinwoo took a few steps back. The king of Berserk Dragons continued to speak, but it seems this battle has come to an end. Jinwoo nodded in agreement. It must be time to end. Oh, so have you decided to give up the useless resistance? Without answering him, Jinwoo quickly rushed straight towards him. The king of Berserk Dragons smiled and shouted loudly, It seems the army of destruction no longer needs to look anywhere, because I will raise the morale of my army by slitting your stupid emperor's throat. Jinwoo replied, The sun darkens the shadows. As soon as he finished speaking, a series of dark warriors grabbed him tightly. Seeing that, he used the dragon's fearsome roar skill and shouted, You scoundrel! I will rip you to pieces and turn you into drake food. I will show the whole world how the dying moments of those who dare to oppose the king of Berserk Dragons will end. Jinwoo used his familiar dagger to attack the king of Berserk Dragons. An image of Mr. Sung, with the former emperor Ashbourne, also appeared. Was a final blow to the person who helped him go to see his grandparents. So have you seen the last moment of your life now? Even though he's come to this point, he's still screaming loudly. You can't eat me right away. Obviously, I didn't see any gate when I came here, right? If you were at the link between the two worlds, you would waste a lot of energy. So how did the legions of rulers get here? Have you been aiming for this from the beginning? Did you take advantage of the collision of maximum power between me and you to tear apart space, calling your allies from the other side? At first, I thought you drew attention to my soldiers and brought me here just because you didn't want my battle with you to be hindered. Yet I'd assumed you would have no way to contact the rulers. Jinwoo reluctantly stood up. Of course I have a way. It's the vessel of the rulers. The vessels that they lend powers to were still here. After hearing these words, he understood. In the sky above his head, thousands of silver warriors appeared. The king of Berserk Dragons looked up at the sky and said, You used those vessels to prepare to open the gate facing this place. So even if you lose the battle, you will still choose a way to win the general war. Look, I've completely lost just by looking at this match. Jinwoo asked him, You are the one behind ordering the monarch of white flames and the beast monarch to eliminate the monarch of shadows, right? He looked puzzled and replied, Did the monarch of white flames cause trouble? He said with a gloomy face. Ashbourne asked me to send my regards to that person. Jinwoo pointed his middle finger at his face. Seeing that he was insulted, he used his sword to attack. However, time was no more. The end of his life was the spears of the rulers piercing his body. He raised his eyes to the sky and said, "The brightest fragment of luminosity. Was this world originally covered in such gloomy light and darkness? Turns out we had no chance of winning in the first place. I will wait for you not in the false resting place you have created, but in the true eternal rest. Then, you will have to confront me again." Jinwoo turned to look at him and replied with a sarcastic tone, "Don't worry, I'll see you there quickly." Then he finally disappeared into space. The leader of the rulers stood before Jinwoo. "Our war is finally over. I don't know how to thank you enough," he replied. "Although it's a bit strange, I have something to ask of you." The ruler is a bit confused. Jinwoo continued, "This is something I can only tell you alone. If it is within my ability, I will help you with whatever you ask." Hearing this, Jinwoo replied, "Can I use the cup of reincarnation again?" Hearing these words, the rulers began to fall into contemplation. "Do you want to use the cup of reincarnation to turn back time?" "That's right," the ruler replied. "Even if you use the god's relic to turn back time, the consciousness of the ultimate beings will still be there, and even the dead emperors will come back to life with memories intact. Do you accept that?" He replied emphatically, "Yes, and if time could be turned back, then I hope no one would be sent to Earth again. I will deal with the emperors and their legions in my multidimensional rift." The ruler was a bit choked up. "Will you face the war alone? Why are you planning to do that? We have used the cup of reincarnation many times, but I don't remember any better results than this." Jinwoo replied sadly, "Because too many people have died in this war, and I want to find those people." Hearing these words, they also felt touched. The cup of reincarnation's life has almost been exhausted. If you fail, you will not be able to return to this time anymore. If you want, you could become a hero of humanity right now, having successfully stopped the invasion of the emperors. And if you lose, there is only destruction waiting for you. And if you win, there will be no joy of victory for you at all. Do you really want to turn back time even though those things might happen?" His state from sadness turned to a satisfied smile, thinking of his relatives who were fighting out there. He was still determined to turn back time. You want to use your own power to save the entire world. Your determination to shoulder your responsibilities alone is very similar to that of Ashbourne, the former monarch of shadows. I understand. I will pray for you. Wait, what do we have to do to return to a time without the existence of shadow soldiers? He replied, "Existences that overlap with the past will be erased, and existences that do not overlap will still be there." Jinwoo smiled with satisfaction. "I understand. I'm ready." The cup is raised aloft with the wishes of the rulers. "Hope your courage can save this world." Maximum light radiated to cover the entire sky there. The maximum yellow light was extremely bright. It spread across the entire surface of the earth. The scene changes to an apartment in the city. The woman's voice inside comes out, "Jin-ah, please wake me up to help Mom." The little girl opened the door and entered the room, shouting loudly, "Brother!" Seeing Jin-ah so petite, we already know that time has really returned. A handsome face with a hybrid V-chin appeared. "Hey, when did you wake up?" Jinwoo turned his eyes to Jin-ah and smiled warmly. The sound of Jin-ah washing her hands smelled sweetly from the pot of soup boiling on the stove. Language mother cut food on the cutting board. She turned to him and said in a cheerful tone, "Is your son awake?" And the familiar scent in my room. Jinwoo turned in surprise to look at his father, who was reading the newspaper, and said, "Dad." Mr. Sung turned to look at his son and asked again, "Just Dad?" "But not Dad. Why do you suddenly call me Dad like that?" He looked at the two of them warmly, crying and saying, "It seems I just had a nightmare." "That's right, the nightmare has ended. The nightmare has ended. My sister, father and mother are still healthy and still here, right by my side. This is my last chance to keep everything. I absolutely will not let this opportunity slip away. Now I will rewrite the coming future with my own hands. But can I enjoy this peaceful time a little longer? It's probably okay because this is a reward for me. At this time, surely the emperors on the other side of the sky are preparing to open giant gates aimed at this earth. But just a little, please let me enjoy this feeling just a little longer. If no one is harmed, during this time, I'm having fun. Can you give me one more day, not just one day?" Then in the end, he decided to leave. leaving his mother only a letter as a farewell. I will return after finishing the matter. In that endless space, the Dark Lord and his army killed many monsters. In this world of nothingness, where eternal darkness exists, if there was no battle, it would be extremely boring. So I challenged and won the battle with the emperors and captured the monarch of transfiguration, the one who has been worrying me all this time. I have been in this multi-dimensional rift for 27 years now. I'm finally starting to see the end of this long, boring, and dangerous war. Now my enemies are left with only the king of berserk dragons and his army of destruction. Fortunately, the time flow outside is different from the time here. It's probably only been about 2 years out there, reunited after 2 years. Dad and Mom, how are you two? I wonder how big Jinnah is. I should have explained this situation more clearly to everyone before coming here. Billiard stood below and respectfully said, Your Majesty, I have taken care of everything, and there are no more enemies hiding here. Jin Woo gave a satisfied smile and replied, Good, I won't lose to him a second time. Arise, the army of darkness has finished preparing. All that remains is to wait. The day of war between the two greatest powers has come. The king of berserk dragons stood aside and said, The monarch of transfiguration, Yogamont, has been defeated.